I ended up, following a passion for which was my hobby, which was design. And now I'm kind of coming back full circle, and I'm running workplace strategy to help Emmy come up with design directives so that our interior design firms can basically focus on what they do best, which is interior design, and not have to worry about, running strategy or, trying to pull together something from a design brief that is handed over by a corporation that's really ambiguous and trying to figure it out and send it across an RFP and compete with other people for those jobs. And you are in product design, which is directly related to things as well. But as I started getting back into this arena and I started reading, trying to catch up basically, like what have I missed out on the last 10 years? It's kind of amazing how much has not changed in management theory. And I found that the most provocative changes, the most groundbreaking strides that were made were actually in the design of the physical structures themselves, and not in the theory behind any of it. So like behaviors, human behavior, it doesn't change that much. Management theory apparently reached its pinnacle when they started saying let's not do a top-down organization, although that's still done. And then I found that the biggest strides were happening in the design arena. And then I struggle because I also really had a focus in diversity. And while we look at corporate culture, and not being top down with it, I struggle with the question. That's why I wanted to bring everybody together in the design arena. Is there a way for us to sort of take this shared set of values or behaviors of a C-suite and actually not devalue diversity when we try to infuse that within an organization? And I think one of the ways is we can do that through design. So that's why I wanted to focus on the design professionals, to talk a little bit about how you might do that in your day-to-day work and how you think about that when you approach design projects. And if you disagree with me that you think that you have to force it down people's throats to get corporate culture to stick or to be meaningful, then you can also speak to that.
We don't force anything down people's throats.
But I was.
We lubricate the thing.
You just want to say it.
Sorry.
But I was thinking when you said that, you talked about the design brief, and when you do product design, you do get a design brief. But I have to tell you, when
Sometimes,
you do
yeah.
office design, you don't get a design brief.
Not
It
rarely.
almost never does the actual. It's typically based on a need, whether it be the lease is expired, we're moving, or we're out of space and we just need more room. It's rare that there's a company that steps and says, we've looked at our business and we realize that we need to change something. So here's a design brief of what we need to change.
It does happen occasionally. We've gotten one from Plastark. It's a group in New York that gave us a design brief. I'm very much excited about what does this look like? If for workplace, not necessarily here's an 8x8 or here's the bench. It was much more visceral. So,
Okay.
but that's only one out of. So
I mean, Google has it
many?
to some extent, but it's still not
Right.
specific to a project. Most times we're at the beginning of the project trying to get them to talk about, to create a design. That's really almost like the first thing we do is try to work with them to create a design.
Some of the times we're programming the groups and we can't even get a number of these people. How many people are going to be? We don't know. Well, guess. We don't know. I'm like, well, I'm going to guess for you that. So sometimes it's even difficult to just get even an idea.
Right.
Yeah. Because they're not accustomed to speaking in a design language, so they don't. We have to kind of pull them along.
Well, I mean, it just seems to go with your idea that management theory stopped.
Right.
And it's being pushed.
I do think that, like, the more sophisticated the company, you used to get something from a DEW, some sort of in-depth brief. I mean, you're familiar with DEW? Do you remember them?
No, I don't.
Plastark was one of the ladies. Was
Right,
Plastark.
Plastark,
Okay.
and they've all gone to either get soaked up into a real estate company, or
Okay,
they're
got it.
consulting on their own, or they're at workplace at Gensler or
Yes,
BJ.
yes.
So they would have the most understanding of design brief in terms of maybe changing culture and standards and methodologies in the workplace. But there's not a lot of them.
Right.
Now it's coming from the real estate end,
Right.
right? And the facilities department is sophisticated. Maybe there's a workplace strategy group that has some inkling of what to do. But most of the people that we're dealing with, there's an admin person who just got tossed this job
Mm-hmm.
and has to build space and get it ready for, they gotta figure out the growth, they gotta figure out headcount, they don't know any of that, so
It's
we get to
unfortunate.
call all that information together, and then we get to ask them, so what's your culture, what do you want to do in this facility to create community and do all these things? And we ask them, and we try to pull it out of them.
Right, or what issues are you running against? And
Exactly.
again, we're constantly in the, also most times when we're brought in by that way, they're thinking just on the physical. And so we have to actually get them out of the physical and into what are the goals of the company? Where are you going? Where are you looking even 2 years out? Because quite often they can't possibly look 5 years out. They have no clue whether they're going to.
Some are planning to get bought,
Yeah,
some aren't, so there's a
Yeah,
lot of, there's
well,
a lot
that's
of
important to know.
components.
especially with the young. Yeah.
Yeah,
But if they don't get bought, then what happens?
well, that's exactly right, exactly right.
Whoops.
Because that happens too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's a very different mindset to even getting them to face that, because if your real goal was to get bought, then your object should be to spend less money on
That's
build
right.
out and do things that the actual employees will appreciate and keep the employees there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If your goal is to go public or start something on your own, then you really have to start establishing your own culture and sometimes just getting them to even think in that realm is our first step.
Back to design briefs too, they're
Yeah.
very, very expensive to produce. They take a long time, there could be ethnography, there's all sorts of things that are going in, very, very expensive, so.
Okay,
They're
so
typically
that's one
not
of the
that.
reason that they don't do them.
Most,
because
nobody,
the
it's
cost
super heady, yeah.
benefit
Yeah,
is
exactly.
not there.
Most don't even have an idea that they
And so
exist.
when you guys are saying that you're just introducing these ideas to them about headcount, like who are you dealing with directly? Like you're saying it's an admin person who's just been handed the job, and you're saying you're trying to get them to think outside of
Right.
structure. So who's them?
Well, I think our very first goal, particularly when we are introduced by an admin person as the one in charge, is to get them to realize that they need to get information from even higher up or get us connected. So typically we start giving them questions that we know they won't be able to answer. So it's the first time when they have to start saying, oh, I can't answer this question, I'm gonna go have to find somebody. And then quite often, we of course encourage them to, okay, why don't you put us in charge, in touch with those. Again, you're still the leader, we're going through you, but
So this is
let's get
mostly-
let's get your executives together, let's talk them into
Right.
sitting in a room together, which is often difficult. And let's get them to all talk about these issues, so that they not only tell us, but also hear it from each other. Because in most cases, they aren't talking at that level on a daily basis.
The broker's helping them understand the gravity of the situation because of the cost of the rent, because it's extreme here. So it's not just a secondhand thought, but it's unfortunate that some people that just are not
Right.
in the right position. I mean, it could be an executive assistant that's never done this before, or painted a wall in a room once.
Right.
So now she's qualified, or he is qualified to kind of help drive this $1 million 7-year
Oh my
effort.
gosh.
It's scary sometimes. It really.
Wow.
But those are that doesn't always happen that way. We do have corporations that have some standards, and they do have departments, but that they're typically fraught with politics, right?
Mhm.
Because they are the lowest totem pole, lowest person on the totem pole. They're complete admin, so they're complete overhead costs. So they're not respected inside the company because they're just hemorrhaging cash. Exactly.
Wow.
So they're under a lot of constraints. So it's fun.
That's challenging.
Yeah.
But then the more progressive the company, the more
Right.
that's become
Right.
part of the real estate has become part of the strategy. So on the bigger
That's right.
firms and stuff,
Right.
it is part. But
Retention.
there's definitely
Yeah.
But you work with a whole gamut of
I'm even thinking,
sophistication, I would assume.
like, one of the things
Yes.
that happens on a less sophisticated client thing, but inevitably, we're trying to get the executives all into
Right.
one room.
Right.
We need at least 2 to 3 hours of their time, because the first half hour is wasted just getting comfortable, and then you
Right.
finally start trying to get 3 hours on their calendars can be altogether, can be the most painstaking thing. They just argue over and over, they don't possibly have the time to spend on this. and no matter how much you're trying to save, you're about to spend $10 million on this build out.
Right.
And you don't have.
And it
3
will
hours.
affect your business
Yeah.
radically.
For the rest of the, time that they're in the building.
But what is great is typically once we get them in that meeting, you can't get them out of it.
Yeah,
Like
you get-
once
you
you
get
start
right.
getting them to talk, they finally realize, oh my gosh, so that's where the opportunity is. Once you get them in that room, the opportunity right then is to change their attitude about what is this project all about.
We do have smarter clients, though. I would have to say that they're more educated than I would think. The 30 years I've been doing this, that they weren't educated. So they're more educated.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And then Brian, on the furniture design side, like what are you seeing as far as what's affecting your designs right now and what's inspiring you, and where are you getting your inspiration from, and are you designing your furniture for ergonomics now, for to be green, to be recyclable? Like what's driving the design of actual furniture these days?
Yes,
Yeah, I was going to say that.
these guys, sometimes. I'm trying to get it back in order.
Play back the tape.
No, well, see, I come from their world. So I'm an interior designer who morphed into being a furniture designer. So I'm always trying to think about how they think about like a space like this. What all has to go in it? What is it that I'm going to work on, and how does it have to play well with others? It's kind of an interesting thing. And for us, we have this joke. Design briefs have reduced themselves to design thongs.
I've never heard that. That's very, very good.
Feel free to use that. So very little information, a lot of competitive, well, these guys did it, now we need it.
Right.
So you're benchmarking, you're,
Right.
remora fish, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And so, again, what you're saying, and I think this gets back down to like basic design. We used to do programming, right, which is problem seeking and problem definition. Once you define the problem, a lot of the design work, right, can then work and you're focused and you can get really efficient.
Right.
It's getting the problem defined.
Okay.
That's the big challenge I see in, I think, everything that we're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Our processes or phases were very sequential. We would
Yes,
define the problem.
yeah, but they're all stacked up.
Yeah, and attack the problem, and then we would design, and then we would do drawings, and we move forward, and everything just, it's all together now. Because we're starting drawings, and we're still extracting information again. Still, even the basic,
timelines are shorter.
it's just all jumbled up.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the other thing is, if I think back to when I was first doing this, it really was a numbers game at the time.
Mm.
We're going to need 43 workstations and 16 offices of this size and 14 offices, and yes, that was the information you delved out of them, and then you kind of arranged it. But we really didn't we didn't even see ourselves as a business driver or problem solver at the time. It was really just how do you make the place look kind of nice and not
Fitting
kill
in.
people.
Right.
You know?
Right. Make sure we can get out in the fire.
But now we need to get such more esoteric information out of them, or so more touchy-feely
Right.
information to really do a unique or interesting work. Otherwise, we're just repeating what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Agility is very important in the workspace itself too, not just in working, but in the way that space can morph. Like this, I mean, this space itself is, it's AV tables, so it can be as many things as it wants to be. But before, it wasn't about versatility. Now it's very high. It was about it. It was about my 900 square foot office in Atlanta Plain.
I was just drawing this.
You were before you started?
Oh, yeah. I'm just about to make a presentation about somebody who needs this sort of a solution. And everybody's got one, so they need one.
What is that hole?
What's for AV?
What is that hole?
That's your.
It's like somebody got a skill saw and put a hole in it.
That's wire management.
We were impressed with the coat hooks underneath so you could hang your bag.
I know.
That is clever.
So when you go to a restaurant,
But the
right,
whole-
or go to a coffee bar,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
you're not looking for gum, right? You're
Yeah,
looking
looking
for,
for-
maybe you find gum.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
Now, speaking back to what you had said just in your last statement, that a lot of times they were saying, well, we want what they've got.
Yeah.
So in what you
All
guys
the
do,
time.
It is a leapfrog. So if there's a staircase that turns into a bench that goes up a platform, then that's
and
what I
even
want.
if that facility doesn't really seem appropriate for the type of business that they're doing, they still are like, well, we want to still be like them or whatnot. Is that something that you guys
We call it
have
the
to try
Pinterest
to?
effect.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah.
Pinterest effect.
You're
They
competing
come
with
in,
Pinterest.
well, they come in with, this is my Pinterest
Yes.
page of my ideas.
That's
Yes.
very similar to residential design,
Yeah.
actually.
Not far if moving into that kind of spectrum. There's one of the big housing platforms had that trouble. They didn't put sit-stand desks in,
Uh-huh.
and they put sit-stand desks in.
All right.
400 after
Wow.
that, because
Yeah.
the people came from all other areas
Walks
and
of life.
or other tech
Companies.
companies, and there's the worst place to stand, and so
Right.
so those are the kinds of things they're actually forced out of necessity to make some of those changes. It's not just a choice. It is like put them in or else
Right.
I'm not going to work here.
And where's my dog?
Yeah, where's the dog walking?
Which, by the way, we were walking through Airbnb a couple of weeks ago. That's a highly evolved culture. They're really good at what they're doing. And they really get the sort of host idea.
Yeah,
But the best part is they have dogs all over the place.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you just cannot have a bad day when two dogs are playing with each other.
Yeah.
It's really got a
I
kind
thought
of
you were gonna
nice.
say something else when they were
Mhm.
doing it.
I did too. I was like, he's not actually going to do that, is he? I was like, he's two dogs or what? Oh,
Trying would
to
say that.
provide quality content here.
All right, I'm sorry. My mind.
And I'm sober.
I know.
Do we know that?
Yeah, I don't know who you were the
Where
last
were
time.
you before you came here?
That's right.
But that's right, he's walking down the street.
Yeah, he was. He's got
I
dogs.
got a contact time.
Oh.
Walk behind that.
Yeah, no, it's like right over there. Isn't it? It's just right.
It is.
It's like the same.
I'm in that little note.
Yeah.
Let's leave it.
So
And so
Brian,
what-
you were talking about culture, about the Airbnb. Do you want to talk about that, like culture of tribes and like subcultures and everything that you wanted to like get these guys' opinion and thoughts on, since they work with so many different kinds of cultures versus, creating the culture or.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said from a global standpoint, I think. And so a lot of the businesses that are here that maybe are the larger ones that you guys are working with, they have offices in several different places around the world. And so one of the things that we've seen with some of our global clients, especially since we're based in Australia, and we have offices in Dubai and here and partners in London and whatnot, there is sort of a problem when people are trying to approach all these design questions from the designers and the architects and asking them things like, well, what's your office in Bangalore going to look like? What's your office in Dubai going to look like? And so all of them obviously are different for cultural reasons because all the cultures work differently. There's different products available to build out these buildings. But at the same time, on a corporate cultural level, for me, I think about how the company that's based in one location and is the headquarters, then how can they develop these designs of these other offices and not then, make them all cookie cutter and actually try to make them a sort of a subculture of what I call is an ethnosphere. So like there's a cultural ethnosphere, which is really like the world, right? So it's made of all these different cultures, and they all kind of exist together. And if you take that on to a corporate level, then you see you've got your headquarters, and then you have this ethnosphere of other cultures because they have offices in 20 locations. And so when it comes to the architect side and the furniture design side, and you're trying to deal with all of these different cultures, how are you guys looking at that? How are you approaching those types of things?
Culture's tough. It's a really hard one because you can't just say culture, do it now. You have to put the tools in place and create an atmosphere that people feel like they can create a culture. They want to talk to each other, they want to go out to dinner, they want to create a tribe.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to build and stimulate the spaces to do that. Typically in those kinds of situations that you're outlining, there's a cookie cutter, but it has different areas that you can import the local culture, whether it's murals or maybe some finishes that can kind of help turn that. The idea is that when you show up at one office, that it looks similar to the other, so they're not in disarray, if you will. So I'm not sure if I answered the culture question well. But
No.
I think the culture question is really hard, even just not even taking it across the world, but even taking it into
across this room.
across the room,
Yeah.
yes, the street. Like one of the things I find frustrating actually is how many of our clients they have a tremendous amount of foreign workers, whether it be, you know, through visas or whatever. And they don't want to even admit that they have them, in a way.
Wow.
They don't want to adjust for them. And unfortunately, in the kind of strange political correctness world, it's even hard to figure out how to bring the subject up
Right.
to say, okay, you have 3/4 of tech people here
That speak a
that
completely
speak a
different
different language, have a different
Everybody's
life
different.
than everybody else. How do we adjust to actually work with them? And I find that they don't want to admit that or have a difference there within, you know, because it's kind of like, well, we've hired them, they need to adapt to us, which I think is like
And
the
that's
wrong
not-
attitude
right,
in the
that's what I
long
was
way.
saying about devaluing diversity, is
Right.
that, you know, every, you know, company that says
Yes,
that
it
is
says that.
basically.
Tell me how you do it.
Yeah.
Because I haven't had so much
I-
success.
So I think you're talking obviously of a more mature company, right?
Yes.
Younger startups, they're a little bit more open to that.
Right.
And there is a way design and architecture can affect hierarchy real easily. And we do it all the time by not having hard wall offices, making everything open plan. And if we are going to do something in Tucson, we do something regionally, then we do talk about doing some regional flavor, right? So it doesn't feel like the mothership just popped this one over here. Because that's that's the old way we used to do corporate facilities. You just clone stamp that standard, it doesn't really matter. You have the same sofa in Tucson as you did in San Francisco, no one cares.
Right.
Well, now it is about regional flavor, and it is about having those tough conversations with leadership and saying, hey, if you really want to change and create community here, then you need to allow some things to happen. I.e., this big break area, people are gonna wanna play ping pong there at 10, you better be okay with that, because you say you wanna be like this company, and we're gonna bring some of these attributes in, but the first time you say, I want that guy button seat in front of me, then the whole thing blows apart. So hierarchy and all this kind of philosophy that we talk about in the open plan for the younger company doesn't always apply to a more mature company who's still getting out of the fact that I just moved all my directors into open plan.
Right.
And then the whole thing about having contractors of different nationalities. Usually it's a food conversation, like their food smells, we gotta put extra fans.
Right.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that's like the biggest thing.
Well,
Who's
that's the
gonna cook
biggest
their
thing
fish
that
in the
they're all,
microwave?
yeah, they're
That's the only
talking
thing
about,
they
and
care
then
about.
we're like trying to think, yeah, but you know,
Yeah.
should we not be using red because we know the culture is
Right.
really anti-red, or
Right.
you know, should we
Right,
not
right.
be?
Or should we be including prayer rooms or?
Well,
yeah.
prayer rooms are, we have rooms that can be used as prayer rooms, and we know they don't say prayer room on the outside, but they are for people to respect their religion.
Mhm.
Can I get back to something though that you said? Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So there's a certain, so you want to do the regional influences, right? But when it comes down to planning, there's still efficiencies,
Absolutely,
right? And there's a density,
right?
Right.
and buildings are pretty much rectilinear.
I wish that were true, but.
Columns.
Please give me lots of columns and
Since you go to
serrations
the
along the outside.
suburbs, we don't.
So it's more than just pastiche. It's more than just stylistic. Like, okay, we're gonna be in Tucson, so we need some cactus,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You really need to get in there and figure out
Mhm.
what those people or what they want that's gonna reflect
Right,
Tucson as
Right.
opposed to Silicon Valley,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But the planning concepts may be the same.
Similar, I think.
Similar.
Yes.
I think when you get to certain foreign countries, then the scaling changes a lot.
Right.
Because
You mean
they're
we are
used to being
overseas,
denser, or they're,
Right.
you know.
Okay.
But, I mean, and then of course, and you know, this is the really difficult thing of like going to Arizona and not just putting cactuses in, but actually try to figure out what is the flair that speaks to them of their
Sure.
culture.
Local
So it's not,
artists,
doesn't look, I mean,
community type stuff.
Mhm.
There's other things that design can do.
Beyond the
If it's a
sports
whole
teams.
building, create opportunities for the community to come in, have it more forward facing.
Mhm.
Not that I'm up here in this high rise. There's a lot of different ways you can say, you can plant the seed.
Right.
Can we do these things? You should be thinking about it. Your employees love this kind of stuff.
Right.
Take advantage of it.
Now, are you given the rein and the time to be able to do those things for these companies, to actually go in and figure out the cultures?
Time? What's that?
I mean, how do you do what your job is to do well if they don't give you the sort of time and support to?
I think each firm's different. I would imagine Huntsman does it differently than Nichols. I think we have it in our proposal. and you do too.
We have it in our proposal, that's what
Analysis,
we begin.
yeah, right. But the analysis and research,
You ask for it.
you ask for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you either make it a part of the deal or you don't make it part of the deal. I mean, sometimes you don't always get what you want, you don't always have the time, but even just a little bit really helps inform the design.
Right.
I think what's hard for people too, I'm sorry, I was just gonna say that what's hard for people is they're very literal, and especially with Pinterest, they say, I want it like this.
Right.
And you're trying to get them to be more abstract.
Right.
You're trying to be up here, high level discussion.
Right.
And they don't even know how to have that discussion.
Right.
So you become these sort of facilitators of
Sure.
conversations,
Sure.
which is why you need their time, because
Right.
once they sort of get warmed up and realize, oh,
Right.
it takes time and effort and skill,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
No, we're absolutely anthropologists on that front.
Right.
We have to pull that
Yeah.
out of them, which is an interesting thing about culture as well. I think and we all do this. We create stories inside the spaces as well. With
Right.
stories, people can follow along,
Right.
and then they actually it creates culture.
Right.
So it could be the concept, you know, the piece of renovated or recycled metal on the table or something like that, but it has a story. We all like stories.
Right, narratives.
Yes, yes.
But I think we also start with what we can start, and we just keep looking for those opportunities to pull it out as all the way through the process.
Right.
Until, you know, until it's built, it can change.
Right, that's true.
So,
Our hardest or I think our best days are when we have the time to actually, you know, overlay actually a design concept on
Yeah.
a
Right.
project. It's moving so quickly most of the time that because we're all trained that way. To have first you start with the concept. You know, is it you know, is it a publishing company? You know, and are the people letters? You can just really dive down, and it really is a playbook then to do design. But we just are moving so quickly. These days it's really hard to have the concept over it. So we get that, I'm having a good day.
So once you're finished, right, and the building permit's in, then you go back and then you sketch the napkins after the fact.
Yeah. I've done that, I've reverse engineered the concept. This looks great, and now, oh yeah.
But see, I love this because that's, I mean, the task, it's fit to the time. And people always, well, what makes you a designer? What makes you a professional? Because you do it on demand, right? In the time allotted.
Yeah.
You don't wait for your muse, right? We got 3 weeks.
David,
All right.
he's like,
I wait until the night before. I'm doing great about that.
But seriously,
Down the way to the meeting.
that's a really good thing that we provide, I think, as
Yeah.
designers,
Yeah.
is we just do it when we need to do it, and we know how to do it really well and really efficiently.
Yeah.
one of the most challenging, I think, things that we do, and I think that it's totally undervalued
Mhm.
as a profession, is actually program and then space plan. Because it is a masterwork of art in your brain, because we're thinking three dimensionally, we're thinking about efforts and time, and it's, when you're space planning, it's all right up here in front of you, and you're just having to pull it down. You can't put it all on paper and then shuffle it. It doesn't work like that. You have to do it organically as it happens. And it's really a big brain work, and we're totally underestimated for that. Because we do something like that in 30, 40 minutes that would take somebody days
Yeah.
to figure out, but we can do that fast because we have that.
And you have the
Yeah, the-
experience.
Well, we have it, yes, exactly.
And they command extremely high billing rates.
Not the case.
Oh, no?
No.
We're billable?
Yeah,
That happened.
yeah.
I thought I just gave all my projects charity work.
Well, that's another interesting question, is you guys are kind of all at the top of your field. I mean, you're all from some of the most respected commercial design firms that are out there. So do you also get to pick and choose your clients at this point? And
Well, maybe you do.
Never know.
I do.
No, we don't, unfortunately.
No.
Every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, what's nice is occasionally when we actually get to turn down a client.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times, with the economy that it's like,
Right.
it doesn't matter what's walking the door,
Mhm,
we're gonna
mhm.
figure out. And as designers, the second we hear about a problem, we're solving it.
Right.
Right.
That's probably one of the toughest things.
Right.
You didn't even get the job yet, but you heard about the issue or the problem, and your brain is already
Right.
working on the solution
That's right.
before you got the job. So
Right.
even if it was a job that you didn't want, or
Right.
you didn't have the time to do,
Right.
or it starts,
Yeah.
and you
We're problem solvers and we kind of like that stuff.
And
figuring it out.
we really love that stuff, and we have
Yeah.
egos.
Yeah.
Not huge, but it's enough for like a fish hook to just like,
Right.
you got me, I really want to do. What? It's changed though, so egos, the designer ego from 30 years ago is a lot different than it is today.
Mhm.
Yeah.
how can I solve the laundromat in the future? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, we get involved with them prior to even getting them, and then it's downhill from there. Because
Right.
we're basically chasing after something, whether it's good for us or not.
Yeah.
There are some groups that do get to chase down just the work that they want. Like an Aileen Darling is there. I think they're very highly specialized into kind of a higher end look and
Right.
residential as well. So I think they're more residential. So they're picking
Garcia's Amchidi, those guys, they're really super boutique
Right.
shops.
super high
Right.
work, yeah.
Yeah.
And on the residential side, which we're not much.
At all.
But,
Well, if a patron comes and wants me to do something, I'll do that.
Right.
I will chase it.
but I mean, on the other hand, I will say, we certainly get much more walk-in work now from our reputation or from other people recommending
Mhm.
us than we did 5-10 years ago. So, I mean, I guess there is something.
Yeah,
We aren't,
absolutely.
we aren't out there interviewing for jobs every week.
Right.
but
That's right.
Right.
five-
Isn't that interesting?
Right.
That's really dropped off.
Yeah.
What, the interviewing
Yeah, yeah.
process? Oh, really? Because typically these guys would be staggered by about a half an hour.
Hi, Joe. Hey, David. We're just like, we're
Right,
coming
and he walked through
and
going,
we're like,
oh, hi, Primo.
I
is.
walk in after Dan Huntsman all the time.
It is, it's kind of,
Michael or.
they always seem shocked that we know each other.
We're
On
like,
the way
yeah.
out. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks so much for coming and talking about this stuff, and it's really interesting to get your perspectives. I mean, especially since I've not been in this industry, per se, in commercial design.
Yeah.
So it's interesting just to hear how much similarity it has to the residential side and how many differences there are as well.
Look out for VR and disruption for our world.
Yes.
It's coming hard and fast. I'm not sure we're ready for it,
Yeah,
but I
virtual
don't know. Oh
reality.
my God, it is coming like it's already here. We're not even going to be sitting down in front of computers anymore. We're going to be in rooms just with and I don't think we're going to have visors on. Frankly, it's going to be kind of a glass kind of thing.
And what do you see in the future for what you do? Product design.
The challenge for us is that, for the most part, it's the limitation of the materials that we have to work with, right? And so, tables, panels, steel, those kinds of things don't offer a whole lot of sculptural sort of expression. It's rare that you can do something like this, which is very much an object, but it still has to conform to saws and people and things like that. What I think is really interesting is if we're going to get into this sort of three-dimensional printing of real materials that you're already seeing. I don't know if you guys know Joe Doucet, the guy who's started all this really great like sugar and creamer and things that are basically on demand, but they're made of beautiful materials and it's all 3D printed and shipped to you.
Oh, wow.
It's really cool. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing that's going to happen for us. Yeah, I mean,
Product design and furniture.
let's print out that table.
Yeah.
Well, I've even seen them do a 3D print building where they do,
Yeah.
I think it's concrete that spits out of the machine, and they did the first 3D printed building recently.
They're doing organic framework already.
Yeah. So so that's exciting for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's the cutting edge, and we still have all this infrastructure that we have to plan and work with. So it's kind of hard to be one step in that world and the
Yeah.
other one in here.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I agree.
well, and again, virtual reality is going to cause a tremor in your world too, because now we're going to, whether it's headsets or whatever.
However it manifests
you know,
itself.
How is it going to affect the user when they're in that environment, and what are they going to need? Because they're not looking across the room like.
They may be suspended on cables and so that they can be frequently really out there.
That'd be great. So people will just literally have these things and they'll think that they have a table in front of
They
them.
don't need anything.
Right.
It's possible.
Basically, your entire room is no longer needed.
Perfect.
But it will all be
You're
needed
designing
in the
virtual
virtual
furniture,
world.
Brian.
So you can just design for the
You can
virtual
start
world.
designing
Yeah,
virtual.
you don't have to worry about all those angles and things.
And saws it.
Those pesky codes,
Yeah, that's right.
physics and stuff like that.
Physics and the con.
Uh,
Yeah.
That's so yesterday.